So here we are in Tbilisi, Georgia, in front of a very glamorous grey wall, and it's me, Troy Francis, and it is Ege, the charming man. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
All good, man, all good. Well, we're here on a slightly grey, rainy day, so we're sheltering inside in this pretty cool coffee shop that Ege found for us, or pointed out for me and Tusk, which is a really cool place. And, I mean, before we get into it, well, this will probably go on both of our channels, but for the benefit of guys on my channel who maybe they don't know your stuff,
Yeah.
do you want to intro yourself? And then I guess I can intro myself quickly. First, I'm Troy Francis. I'm a dating coach, a writer. I do the Rule Zero show with Rollo Tomasi, Modern Life Dating, those guys. Worked with Tusk for quite a long time now. And yeah, that's kind of it from me. But how about you?
Yeah, great, man. So my name is Ege. I am building a brand called The Charming Man. Usually I work with guys who are a bit more analytical and who tend to be in their head, because I used to be an engineer. I studied computer science. I know exactly how it is to overthink and be too attached to steps and systems.
Yeah.
And I found that I really enjoy coaching, so those are the guys I usually help. Me and Troy kind of got to know each other through the man himself, James Tusk, and now we've finally had the opportunity to meet in person in Tbilisi.
Well, we did meet before, actually, didn't we? In
Yeah.
a dodgy nightclub in Colombia. But,
Yeah.
I mean,
And you guys are going back there.
yeah, we are. We're going back to. I mean, my travel schedule has just been nuts recently. First world problems and everything. But yeah, Georgia. I've got to go to Turkey tomorrow to work with a client, and then we're going to, for the big one, we're going over to Colombia to do some footage and stuff over there. So it's going to be pretty cool. But with all of that being said, what we wanted to talk about today is something that we've been chatting about off camera, which is, I guess, like the importance of breaking rapport, really. Although maybe there's more nuanced way to talk about this. But I think fundamentally what I was saying the other day is you've got two things. You walk up to a woman you're attracted to, and yes, on one level you need to sort of get to know her and show that you're interested in her as a person and build that rapport. But on the other side of it, and this is the big message that really came through to me from learning about all of this dating stuff in the first place, is that actually breaking rapport is also really important, because otherwise you just turn into the best friend, and there's no attraction there, right? So how do you feel about that topic?
Yeah, I would say, when a lot of guys, including myself, when I first started this, I got addicted to that stage of building a lot of rapport, because I think we tell ourselves that, of course, we want the end game, right? But at the beginning, even a good reaction from a girl, you're like, wow, she didn't tell me to go away. She's actually smiling. She's actually interested.
She didn't call the police.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think for a lot of guys, they tend to build some reliance on that.
Mr. M's fine.
Yes, she is 100%. Mr. M, if you're watching, you know what we're talking about. But I think a lot of guys get used to that validation they get from the conversation, because they've just never had that before. Yeah. But a slippery slope that you can find yourself in is like, you're having that conversation, everything's going well, you're asking her about how it feels, and you're moving things forward, and there's a lot of connection, but there is just no tension between the two of you. And tension is key for creating that romantic frame rather than just being her best friend.
Yeah, that's true. Tom Torero used to have a phrase, attraction is in the push. And what he meant by that, if you've got push-pull, so you got pull, the pull is all the sort of like, oh, I really want to get to know you, you're a really interesting person, like tell me more, blah, 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 and you're sort of trying to pull her in. The push is like when you're being slightly, you're creating friction, I guess, between the two of you. It's not just this thing of like, oh, I'm super interested, oh, tell me more. Oh, you work in Starbucks, that's amazing.
That's the best job ever.
Yeah. It's when you create a bit of friction, a bit of tension between the two of you, that's where the attraction's really created. And you can see that, can't you, when you have conversations with women, and if you say something that's a little bit teasy, a little bit of a, you're kind of challenging her a little bit, you can see the attraction created then, can't you? Whereas, yes, it's very important to show that you really want to get to know her as an individual human being, and I think that is super important. Yeah. But you've got to kind of do a bit of both at the same time, and maybe that nuance is lost on guys who come into this.
Right. I think as you said, Troy, it's really important to have that push in the conversation and also in the way that you carry yourself, because someone who's trying to pull everyone in, does he really have options? Like a lot of women, they don't care about as much about what you say on surface, but like what's the intention you're saying it with, and how would a high value guy who actually has options communicate to her? He's not going to compliment her all the time and just try to pull her in, because he knows his life is best spent with someone who wants to also be drawn in. So it's good to create that space, because you're actually giving the other person the opportunity to decide if they want to be drawn into your world, which is extremely important. And then the best part of doing that as well is you get to spend your time around people who are just genuinely wanting to be around you. Whereas if you're always like pulling, I think you get a lot of like numbers and decent conversations, but then you end up wasting time on the back end thinking it's going to lead to something, whereas they don't respond, or they think you're a friend, you go on a date, nothing happens. What are your thoughts on that, Troy?
Well, you've got to be super careful not to friend zone yourself, and I mean, it's very easy to do, because I think as guys, quite logical, it makes sense that, if I just go and I'm really nice and she really likes me and I show I really like her, then it's game, set and match. And of course unfortunately that's not really how it works in terms of dating. It might be in other areas. It's funny actually, because I had a realization recently. We often talk about the parallels between sales and dating, and there are huge so many parallels. It's really fascinating, because and obviously we both do so. We've got a sales background, we do sales, and there are many parallels between the two processes. But I think the one thing where it differs is, for the most part, you can challenge a prospect in sales, can't you? And maybe that is important. But I mean, for the most part, sales is kind of like building rapport. It's building a relationship with the client, good feels and all that kind of thing. And the one place where I think it differs a bit is with women. You do need to be a bit more challenging. You do need to. And the other thing as well, what you said is really true. I made a video earlier and I was talking about the need to qualify, So, okay, she's pretty, she's attractive, whatever, but is she actually cool? Like, what else is there about her? And we can make the mistake of just letting too many of these women randomly into our lives because, she's nice, she's a pretty face, whatever. I don't want to be alone. But is she actually genuinely, if you strip all of that away, somebody that you really want to spend time with? And I think that's something we forget, and we don't go in and with those more challenging questions like, okay, well that's cool, but what do you actually do with your time? Are you on TikTok the whole time, or are you working out and improving yourself or whatever, right? So.
Yeah, I think a really good mindset to have to make that tangible is when you're having that conversation, genuinely try to find something about her that would excite you to see her again. Rather than just asking surface level questions and thinking, she's good enough. Because really, if this was a guy you met and they had nothing interesting going on, you wouldn't go, oh my God, man, that's so cool. You'd just be like, I'm not spending my time with this guy again. So you want to almost, in your mind, separate the fact that she's an attractive girl as you're having that conversation, if you want to really qualify and get to know her. And I think the way this is, as you said, kind of similar to sales as well, is when you're on the call and let's say you're selling something, right? If you push someone too much, they will subconsciously think like, why is this guy pushing me so much? Does he not make any sales? Like, what's with all these strategies?
You don't want to come over as desperate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So with clients that you work with, right, do you find that a lot of guys have trouble with creating sort of tension? And if they do, how do you help them with that? What's your kind of, obviously not giving away the whole game, but what's your sort of methods for helping guys through that?
Yeah, I think first of all, yes, a lot of guys do struggle with building that tension. I think that's quite natural when you first start. When it comes to that sexual tension, I think if you have a higher ability to hold tension than the girl you're talking to,
Yes.
then that's key in creating that romantic interest and showing her that you're interested in her.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, and also the thing about you is you're quite into your, your meditation, your more spiritual stuff. You're obviously very chill sort of guy, and it just struck me while you were saying that probably helps you with holding tension, right? Because you could be super calm and zen-like, and you could just sit there and be in the moment. And if there's a little sort of like an awkward silence or something, you can just be present and not feel you have to react, and that probably actually helps you, right?
Yeah, I was talking to James about this as well, but the biggest part of meditation that has helped me actually is when we start, we're all focused in our head. Like
Right. Yeah.
when you start interacting with people, you're like, oh, what do they think of me? Do they like me?
Yeah.
Is she out of my league? What does she think about this? But with meditation, as well as, of course, going up and kind of desensitizing yourself to the process, you're able to kind of not necessarily silence your mind, but you're able to separate yourself from those thoughts. So then you have more mental bandwidth to focus on her. And for a lot of women, just the amount of focus you can put on her because you're not in your head, that creates a lot of tension for her. Because most guys are so stuck in their head, they're not putting that focus onto her. And I'm not saying that in a way where you just like really put her on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But when you speak with her, it's like your energy is focused on her, and you're not shameful or scared about doing that. So you hold that tension, and just that tension there, it's like the tension's already in the air. Usually the problem is guys break tension too quickly.
Yes, there is a tendency to do that, isn't there? And even just down to something like, you've gone into the interaction, you're having that initial conversation with her, and then maybe there's a pause in the conversation, and we feel like there's that need to jump in and say something because we don't want to deal with the silence. And actually, sometimes it might be better to just let that silence linger there for a bit and wait for her to say something, and get her to invest a bit more. So it's fascinating stuff, and it goes contrary to, I think, the way a lot of us have been conditioned as well. I think we naturally, if we're kind of nice guys, we don't want other people to feel uncomfortable as well. We don't want to feel like we're making her feel embarrassed about, because there's a silence in the conversation. So we leap in to say something to try to fix that. But actually, that may be doing us a detriment.
Yeah, I think a bit of tension that she feels is actually good. And I think the difference between making a girl uncomfortable in a bad way versus making her a bit like on edge, thinking like, oh well fuck, how do I impress this guy? Because that's what happens, right? If you hold the tension and you're thinking, how do I impress this girl, but you actually don't say anything, she's probably thinking the same thing if you had the courage to approach her and you've been in the conversation for a few minutes. I think that withholding that tension and like that part of the conversation, because the tension's already there, you don't want to break it, and you want to give her the opportunity to actually impress you. I was gonna make a point earlier, but I completely forgot. Do you remember what I was about to say before I started going
Let's
into
just hold that tension there.
Yeah, let's do that. I have no idea, man.
Well, I tell you what, we could close off for now, but no doubt we'll be making some more content so we can come back to it. But mate, it's been awesome to chat to you. So where can the guys find you? Well, maybe you're watching this on his channel, in which case you found him already.
The guys can find me on YouTube, The Charming Man. If you go to my channel, there's also quite a few links there, but I'd recommend checking out that content first. And Mr. Troy Francis, world expert, the oldest man in this game, the longest who's been in this.
It's kind of amazing I'm still alive, really, to be honest. I probably haven't got to much longer than the end of this video really to go. But yeah, just search Troy Francis, you'll find my channel, subscribe, and there's all the links and everything you need there. So see you guys very soon. Bye bye.
Thanks for watching.